Welcome to Hoffmann-Photography. My name is Rainer, I'm a photographer and photo instructor. A few weeks ago I made a video with the title Why I Won't Go Back to Analog. And this video sparked some interesting comments. And two of these comments in particular got me thinking. In that video, link is in the description, I stressed that I really like the almost total control I have over my digital images in terms of colors, tonal values and so on, as compared to film. And Palu addressed exactly that by asking, but isn't the idea of having total control paradoxically a restriction of creativity? That's a very interesting question, and I must admit that I had never thought about it. Now, of course, every artistic medium, be it oil paints, watercolors, sculpture or photography, every medium has its limitations and restrictions, of course. But I'm asking myself, are these restrictions due to the amount of control that the artist has over the medium? Don't painters have full control over their art within the limitations of the medium? Personally, I think they have even more control than photographers. They can mix the colors exactly the way they want them. They can put in the frame whatever they want, and they can leave out of the picture whatever they don't like or don't want. They can paint a blue elephant or a flying pig. That's a lot of control, but I assume that no painter would consider that a limitation of creativity. But I could be wrong, of course. Back to Palu. I think total control is a limitation because it seems that digital photos have to be perfect. Well, I'm certainly guilty of perfectionism at times, and in this sense perhaps it is a limitation of digital photography. But there are lots of images in my archive that are far from perfect. But these imperfect images mostly lack a good composition or they are simply boring. In terms of sharpness, exposure, tonal values and so on, they are still pretty good. So yes, perhaps Palu has a point here. But then again, Salvador Dali said, don't be afraid of perfection. You will never achieve it. And perhaps that's a good thing. Here's a comment of John Fullcorn's Macaron. So when it comes to this analog versus digital, I'm more like a lukewarm social liberal. I like both. Lukewarm social liberal. I like that. Thumbs up for that one. Analog photography makes you look at the world in a different way and opens up a new world because it adds something digital does not. That's a very interesting point. But what exactly does analog add that digital doesn't? And to what is this something added? To reality? I have a vague feeling what John Fullcorn's Macaron means, but I can't put it into words. But I definitely agree that analog and digital photography are a different medium. A bit like oil paints and watercolors. They do have a different look. Digital photography is about realism, isn't it? With analog photography, you interpret the world through a medium, in the same way as when you are painting. Digital photography is always ice-cold realism. Back in the 19th century, when photography was invented, this is exactly what some people said about, well, analog photography. Photography, so they argued, just showed the cold reality without any involvement of the artistic eye of the person behind the camera. It was all just mechanical and a lot of chemistry. Personally, I believe that this wasn't true for analog photography back then, and that it is not true for digital photography now. But certainly, analog and digital photography render reality differently. No question about that. However, in my opinion, photography, whether analog or digital, for many reasons, never is realism. Or in other words, a photo is a photo is a photo. But it can indeed be ice cold. With digital photography, you can experiment without limits. Yes, indeed. And isn't it wonderful? In my opinion, experimenting is part of the creative process. And experimenting doesn't restrict me at all. On the contrary, I now do things I never did with analog. So, I'm not convinced that digital photography restricts or kills creativity. But your mileage may vary. Please let me know in the comments what you think. That's it for today, and thanks for watching.